for a while. Coach, we don't know you. What are your thoughts? Why are we in a shutdown? Do you have any thoughts?
Um, Lease calls me Coach D, but you can call me D. Darrell Spears.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's formally speaking. You can call me D. Darrell. I
We
go by
can't hear
Coach
you,
on
dude.
another channel, but D. Darrell Spears is what I prefer.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, we can't
as
hear
it
you.
relates to the government shutdown, I'm looking at this from two perspectives. I'm looking at this from the perspective of me personally, how it affects family members, friends, people within our community that um, have have access to different services that are government funding. And then also I look at it from the perspective of me being a mental health clinician um, who who provides services that are government funded through Medicare and Medicaid, who also provides services through government contracting on the federal state level. Also, people who write grants, things of that sort. There's all different ways in which government funding filters into our community, particularly within the black community, in which we use that as a means of surviving and thriving, depending on whatever level you're functioning, whatever your level of need. Also, another big thing is as it relates to kids, we're talking about the funding for that. Um, a great deal of Medicaid funding as it relates to the Medicaid expansion plans that have been greatly reduced over the last several years will continue to be reduced as far as kids in low income families being able to access health care. Um, and so that in itself will affect a great deal of people, particularly those who are low income and who also have different types of disabilities. And so that there is a domino effect. Um, we've had several. Um, we've had several government shutdowns, and in each government shutdown, um, I've seen things permeate throughout our community and throughout as far as the country differently, and and so it all depends on how long it lasts, how many workers have been shut down, the funding. More importantly, if you're an entrepreneur who makes a living off of receiving revenue through the governments, there will be an issue as far as how those funds are retrieved or paid out to you, which will slow down. There are a lot of companies that we think are privately owned and so forth or whatever, that you think that they're getting funds privately, that they get a great deal of their revenue from the government. And you'll be surprised the amount of companies that prosper off of the state and local governments. You'll also be surprised how many state programs are federally funded, like Medicaid. And so um, I didn't understand that until the first government shutdown that I experienced as an entrepreneur during the Obama administration. And when I start seeing government agencies such as the Department of Family Protective Services, such as some of the agencies that I um, contracted with and so on, providing mental health services, you got an email, and an email stated, there will be a delay 15, 20 to even 30 days. That
Mhm.
affects business. That doesn't just affect me as an entrepreneur, but as a person who had, contract therapists and other administrative that affects how you operate your business and so on. So there is a domino effect, and the issue that I have with government shutdowns is that it's basically political gymnastics between both parties, positioning themselves for power, and it's the people at the bottom who are the ones who are the most affected over, meaningless quarrels that can easily be solved if everybody sought to resolve issues through bipartisanship. And to me, that's a failure of democracy, and that's a failure of our system.
Right. So,
Okay.
Tamara, what do you think? Based on what Dee Durrell, thank you so much, and welcome to our panel, by the way,
Mhm.
said. From your perspective, what do you think, Madeline?
Well, from my perspective, when the government shuts down, it's not just a political impasse, it's a human crisis. Millions of America's, especially Black families, we make up a significant portion of the federal workforce. It isn't theoretical, it's a missed paycheck, stalled progress, and a reminder that our labor force is often valued more than our well-being. And that just puts us in the worst position. And a lot of us live paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
You have landlords, they need theirs too. So who's to say that you just don't know. So I just feel like it puts us in a horrible position as human beings overall, but Black families and Black communities in particular will be hit very, very hard.
Mm-hmm. Especially those, so many federal workers are in the DC area, and many of them are of color. They're Black folks, and so it's directly affecting them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Alicia, from your perspective.
No, I'm sitting here listening to everybody, and I'm gelling with it all. I don't know if people know I'm as well as being a therapist, I'm also a social worker, and so I'm always interested in finding out who are the people that are the most vulnerable, who are those people, and how are they impacted. And I think, to me, I just find this shutdown to be reckless, and it's a political tactic that's not interested in the people of the country and instead interested in egos. And I mean, you guys said it very eloquently. This shutdown halts and delays federal programs where people are dependent on that to some extent and need it. SNAP, WIC, Head Start, even Head Start. Housing subsidies, all of these, and very important government programs are being impacted. And so, we have people, vulnerable individuals who are losing access to food, housing, healthcare supports. Just think about emergency services. I'm just looking on my phone over here about this storm coming. How is this going to happen? How is it going to affect Texas and other countries like that? And the thing is that it's the fear and instability during these shutdowns that makes mental health such a problem. People need the emotional support and just straight up planning. And it's going to require all of us to just work together and collaborate from a social work standpoint to fill in these gaps that are temporarily left by the suspension of federal aid. I also think that we need to start putting some pressure on lawmakers to restore some of this funding, particularly to human services. We got children, elderly individuals, people with disabilities, low-income families. You don't understand, most people who are receiving but people who are receiving benefits are in married families, intact families, not just an issue for single moms, it's an issue for all families. Because if you work a job, full-time job, it's not enough in this day and age. So we need to do some more advocacy. We had the No Kings protest, which I was applauding for over last weekend. We do need to stand up, and I think we need to prioritize human needs over partisan conflict. And I think we just live in a world that just hates poor people. I don't understand this, And as a social worker, we understand that these issues are structural. So, some of it is you, but let's deconstruct some of that and to see there's these systems that are also working. So as a society, it's just, we need to, so much is tied to people's access to food and shelter and healthcare. That sort of gets lost in this political negotiations, and I think that's pretty sad.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Lisa, what do you think?
Hi. So I agree with a lot of what Dr. Alicia what you
Yes.
said, and Coach D. Yeah, there's a lot of Elises on here. So forgive me if I mess up your names. I agree 100%. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to it. I've been thinking about this, and to me, it really comes down to like a classism thing. I think we're in the middle of right now, and there's no respect for the human needs, like you had mentioned, Dr. Elisa. Like, where where is the care for anybody? If you don't have
Right.
money and you can't survive this, it's like deplorable. Head Starts are going to lose their money at the end of this month. SNAP benefits, and we keep talking about the most vulnerable, but we're all vulnerable because none of us on here are millionaires. So we're living a comfortable, maybe middle class, maybe upper middle class life where we can afford to do things, but it's a domino effect. So if there's no place for social workers to go to provide social services that they're getting paid for, how are they going to feed their families? The dominoes fall really hard and really fast. So it's kind of scary because everybody's affected by it. You see the most vulnerable being affected most immediately, but it's just a matter of time before that seeps into everybody's life. And what was so powerful about the protest was you saw all walks of life really out there stomping and advocating for something having to change. I think there is a lot of politics going on and no humanity going on. I don't see any humanity on either side. I see a fight, but I don't see a lot of the humanity going on. And I think that's why people are in these political campaigns all over the place looking for an outside source, somebody who's going to present something that's different than the parties that are at play. And it's really, it's quite scary. I think they're both to blame. I think all people are on some level to blame. There's a level of ignorance in this country that is much deeper, and people don't have an understanding. They think that they get their information from, no offense to YouTube or to Spotify or any of these services, but they serve a purpose. They are a source for discord. They are a source of information, but they are not always fact-based. And when you have people who aren't critically thinking about information and not synthesizing it, they make decisions and perhaps mistakes that we all have to bear the brunt of. And so it's a very scary, Coach D, you talked about the shutdown that we've had prior. And the difference I feel in those shutdowns is that the parties were willing to come together to solve it. And right now, there is a sort of attitude, well, we're not coming to the table because it doesn't benefit us to, and it doesn't benefit us not to. There's no push for it. So the original question that you posed, CYNDA, was, about the money, do we think that Congress should be getting paid or not paid? Or, I think if nobody got checks, this would be a whole different type of situation. If we didn't have PAC money involved, this would be a whole different type of situation. Mm-hmm. Taking donations, going to your sign that you put up, Elise, about paying our military with a donation, that's insanity. We have money. So let's come to the table and figure out how we're going to take care of the people in this country. It's Tamara's shaking her head. It's so disturbing where we are. It's really scary.
Very.
It's really scary. Mm-hmm. Full stop.
Ms. Elise, you just said something really kind where you talked about there's no humanity. Now, this is just a rumor, so I implore everyone to research, but there's a rumor that homeless people may be labeled as illegal. So there's no pot being created. So if you factor in what's going on with the shutdown, people losing jobs, not only jobs, but like D. Durrell, offline, Coach D, no disrespect. What's going to happen with that? Where will people be able to survive after that? Because you have more mental health issues coming.
So that just sounds like there's more, shutdowns aren't just political chess moves, they're economic chokeholds on communities that are already gasping for air. This is ridiculous.
Yep.
How are you going to do what to our homeless? You already aren't housing them. I mean, you're already falling short regarding them in the first place. And now they're threatened with what? It's too much.
Well, didn't they make it a crime in a state, Tamara? Didn't they make it a crime? I forget because there's so much so fast, right? You can't process everything.
I don't
but
know
I do
what's
remember
true, what's not true.
There was a homeless
right.
encampment somewhere. Right,
Yeah.
there was a homeless encampment somewhere, and they were all arrested because it was a trespassing crime. So now they were charged with trespassing. I know that there's organizations out there, grassroots, who are building homes for homeless to help them but that's like a slow churning process. When you're just grabbing them and throwing them in jail, that's a quick process, right? That's a way to make it look like we're doing something and cleaning it up, but you're not. You're just moving a problem from here to where it's sort of not unsightly for you. Right. But then since jails are privatized, now there's money in it. That's a whole nother issue, but
Right.
because
Exactly.
it's all tied together. It's all tied together.
All tied together.
James, you usually have a much broader, more spiritually based thought process. But you're also a therapist in the system. So what do you think from your perspective? Before I throw some other questions out there.
Okay, thank you. I am not as articulate or informed as probably most of you all are. And what you're saying is so beautiful and so understandable. And you seem to have a pulse for humanity, as it's indicated, and that I appreciate it. But I am not as maybe not as educated as those of you who could articulate the issue. The one thing that I am that caused me to think in regard to the subject matter is that, as an example, if you're Islam, if you're a Muslim, as an example, if you're a Muslim and the mosque is falling in, then you go to the imam and say, well, something is not working here, and we go to the top. Same thing as it relates to any church-oriented, church, Methodist, Baptist, whatever, evangelical. You go to the top and look at the leadership of the people that are a part of your process. In this country, we go to the leader, the quote unquote, whoever that is, leader. And that's where we start, because that person, male or female, is the emphasis that regulates the rest of the body. It's like going to the brain. That's where all the trouble is, going to the brain, down to the body, if you're a physician, et cetera, and so forth. Seems to me that we're addressing issues relative to what can the body do. Yeah, we can pay attention, we can be more receptive, we can be more loving, et cetera, and so forth, and all those kind of things. We can take our meds, as I would suggest to a lot of my clients to do. Take your meds, take your meds, you'll be all right. But the top, when we go to the top, indiscriminately, go to the top and say, good or bad, right or wrong, Republican or Democrat, doesn't make any difference and all that stuff. But who is that person? Because that person is going to sway the pulse of the people that he or she is leading. And if you want to challenge the result of its, her, him, his leadership, then you have to approach that person. Then if that person is not acting in behalf of the community, of the group, or the nation, the world, then that's where the change need to come. And that is righteous as far as I'm concerned. I know that we can pick and choose all the little variances relative to being able to live and to feed our families, to take care of our children, take care of our seniors. I do understand all of that, but we are helpless. And in reading and learning what's happening in the world today, as I slowly or integrating it into my brain, I see that people are lost as relates to what to do. Middle class, lower middle class, upper, it doesn't make any difference, because that leadership is going to affect everything we do. Yeah. And when we, as the body, become distorted without understanding, we go to what, psychotherapy? We go to the therapist. And most novice people who don't understand therapy, don't understand psychotherapy, and they just say, we're depressed or we're having a mental health issue and don't know it. So we'll just pull one out. How about depression? I'm telling you, in my opinion, we got to go to the top. Not to do anything drastic. I'm not interested in all that stuff. But I'm talking about when we refer to a body of people to answer the issues and the problems of what we are having, we have to go to the top. And if that top is not acting right, then we as a body of people, as a community, may be able to work out a way that we can dispense with what is destroying our people. And we are, all of us here, we're community people. We work for people. And our love, our work and our love is connected to what we do for another person. And my interest is in my community that is having a difficult time. Yeah.
Thank you. So going from there then, who is our brain? That's my question, because I don't think the person that is representing the leadership is really the brain.
I don't think so either.
And so if we don't even know really who is the brain, how do we deal with the disease of the brain if we don't even know what the disease is and who is diseased and who is running the show? Because people can get mad at our president all they want to, but I just think he's an older aging gentleman that's probably not aging very well, who's just reacting to emotional input that has to do with ego, but not really running anything. So how do we get to the brain? How do we get to know who to replace and how to move forward? Because if the brain is running the body and you don't even know who the brain is, what is our hope for changing anything? Anybody, Doctor or D. Darrell, what do you think? I can't hear you.
You're muted, Coach.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. my strategy would be follow the money and those who give the money. Just like when she posted $130 million, who's the source? No one's giving $130 million for no reason. No one is
Right.
giving millions of dollars just because I just like that we have equal or we have similar views. No, there's always a motive behind uh, people giving millions, thousands of dollars. No one is doing that for nothing. And unfortunately, one of the reasons why the people at the top, who we conceive, particularly corporations, special interest groups, people who fund someone like our president and these political parties, they have motives, and those are the people who I feel are like the forgotten, you know, variable in our political system. We focus so much on the puppets or the people who they put out to carry out whatever policies and whatever type of policies and mindsets and to me public programming in a sense to programming people to think and act, social engineering, and those are the people who should be held more accountable. And so
Right.
we're not just talking about um, one particular group or one person. We're talking about a plethora of people who are in a very exclusive class who make all the decisions for 99% of the people in this country. That's in my opinion.
And the difference between those people and this panel of people, as James said, is we are about our community and loving our people. What are they about? More power, more greed, and just feeding their few is because if we're looking at the money, what does money do? Money's just paper. What does it really do? Because I saw this post today that I can't remember I'm gonna memorize this girl's name. There's this girl that is the bomb. She's so brilliant, and she was saying, she goes, would those people survive without these people? Would they?
No.
Could they? Without a workforce, without the people that work the menial jobs, that grow the economy, that make the clothes, that serve the food, that pick the food, that would those people survive? Would any of their money matter if they can't get their Instacart? Would they matter? That's what I think people don't understand. To me, this is me. This is coming from another perspective. This to me is an awakening moment for people to understand that those people, that brain, don't really run the body at all. It's the spirit that runs everything. And the spirit of the people is what's important. So if they take away SNAP, we feed each other. If they take away helping our elderly people, we make sure they're fed. If we take away therapeutics monies, we have to volunteer. And I think this is an opportunity for us to realize that we are really running this show. They are not as powerful as they make us believe they are. I think the biggest problem is the fact that we are slowly awakening to who really is the power in this thing. They've been banking on us not knowing who we are, thinking that they run the show, that things are hopeless and helpless because they're choosing to give money to the military but not to the elderly, because they choose to give money to ICE instead of making sure people are housed. We can make people
Absolutely.
housed, right?
Absolutely. And Miss Cinda, you said something really important earlier. I'm here in DC for those of you who don't know, so I've been down watching everything. It's about power for whomever the brain is. They've already demolished part of the White House. So whoever is the brain, as you mentioned, they're planning on staying for a while, or someone is planning on staying for a while for this immaculate ballroom. So keep that in mind as well. There's a question here if everyone can see.
Does the panel think it's going to cause a violent reaction at stores? Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
For those people that believe that they're powerless, absolutely. If you believe you're powerless, if that's the choice you make in your yeah, you're gonna go and steal, and like it's getting ramped up for years. I'll never forget, I went to this store in LA of all places, where it costs $3,000 for one bedroom apartment. I go to a grocery store and this guy has a cart full of chickens, and he runs out the store, literally pushing the cart, and they just let him go because they knew he was probably taking it down the way to the homeless community. They didn't have anything. And yeah, it's going to happen, until people that are worried about not having enough, that have $1 million sitting in the bank, go and buy a cart of chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
look what happened in the pandemic. I said, look what happened in the pandemic.
Yes.
As soon as people thought they were going to have toilet paper, they went crazy and bought it all. It's like ridiculous. So you're 100%. That's what I've said, what I said before. Until it starts to affect more people, it's a like the domino, it hasn't, all the dominoes haven't fallen, but they're coming, Cindy. You're right on track with that. I firmly believe what you're saying. You're right on track.
Another agency that we've missing that I think has a very profound influence on our economy is I just saw something the other day, and I'm in Houston, Texas, but there is, like, say, agencies like TCA, like with the airports and things like that.
Yeah.
There are airports looking at shutting down. They don't have the workers to operate, or people are not feeling safe to go through the process of flights. That's a huge blow. If people are not, if you're talking about people traveling, and that can take a chunk out of the economy when you don't have enough government workers to, and I never thought of it, because I always thought that, and I just never thought about these agencies that work in the airports. I just assumed like this was all privately funded through, American Airlines, United, and so on.
No.
And I forgot, and it just didn't dawn to me when I saw that, is that this is federal government when we're going through those security processes and little tunnels and machines and all that type of stuff. And so that is having a huge effect on travel and in our economy when you don't have enough government workers, or there's soon to be, where airports may have to shut down if they don't have the proper employees so that people can safely travel. That's a national risk, security risk.
I think it's all breaking apart. It's all falling apart. And what happens when we fall apart? Like somebody said during COVID, I'm not talking about the toilet paper. I'm talking about the coming together that happened.
Right. No.
Yeah, that happened.
Right.
That was a force. Yeah.
That's what has to happen, which is what should have happened in the first place, because or I think we're veering away from top trickle down everything to communities having to come together. And if you know your neighbor is a SNAP person, and you might have to help them, And if neighbors start knowing each other again, and families that are spread out start coming together again and growing their own food and becoming vegetarians and getting more healthy because they can't eat the garbage because it's too expensive. And I just think that while this is all difficult, hard road that we're on, I also think that there is always something going on that we can't necessarily see with our eyes that is shifting us into a better place. And oftentimes, to get to that better place, you've got to dismantle the old. But you can't dismantle the old if everybody's like just comfortable. I'm not saying happy and joyful and thriving. I'm saying comfortable. If you're comfortable, I know that's personal. If I'm comfortable, I am not going to do anything else because discomfort is what pushes me to do new things.
Correct.
And it's like this country, this world is getting uncomfortable. So we're being pushed and forced to move away from this place of inaction and being comfortable in misery because it's just comfortable enough, and changing things. Okay, this is kind of controversial, but I want to put it out there. So there was this girl, a young Caucasian young lady who is Republican, who was talking about the Democrats have basically put people to sleep by giving them stuff. They've given them things, right? and so why would you go get a job and get better and evolve if you're getting SNAP, right? Why would you do that? She was like, because of the way the Republicans are doing things now, that woman's going to get off her butt and go get a job. That's what's being said. And I think she's speaking from a place of complete and total ignorance because she's never been a mother with her children that's trying to feed them all on a McDonald's salary or a Walmart salary or even a teacher's salary. She doesn't know
right. Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? And so she's saying
because everyone that's on SNAP benefits,
they're working. Most of them are working.
now you have to be working. That's
some are working, and that's a supplement to their income. It's not,
yeah. And as a matter of fact, I think the way they're coming back is you got to have 80 hours a month of work to get SNAP benefits.
And volunteerism and other different things, or some type of job training. But the reality is that some states already had something similar in place. So what the federal government is doing is nothing new. There are several states that had stricter requirements to maintain those benefits. It's just that it wasn't seen on a national level. So it's not like they discovered, sliced bread or something like this. This is nothing new. There's several states, particularly in the South, and red states, I would say. And I don't want to make it partisan, but there's certain states that have had more requirements in order to maintain those benefits. That's been going on for the last 20, 30 years. That's nothing new. Some are just more than others.
Right.
I have a question for Dr. Alicia Watkins. As it relates to mental health, do you see this as what's the word that I want to choose? I want to use it politically correct. Do you see this as the beginning of a downward spiral, or people coming to having to learn how to adapt to situations? Because as Dee Durrell said before, this isn't new. I think the climate is a little bit different because there are other populations, if you will, that are now feeling the sting of this. Your perspective on that. Thank you.
Look at how this conversation has gone. This has gone from there are controls higher than the president, and we start digging into that. And then we are starting to connect what CYNDA talked about very beautifully about this awakening that's happened and that's happening. And as a therapist, I'm sitting back and I'm looking at the lack of empathy that we're seeing and the lack of compassion. And what happens is that this vision of rising together implies that this awakening is not just happening to one of us, it's happening as a shared collective piece. So, in terms of mental health, we know that we have to be able to put ourselves in other people's place. How is this I have to take myself out of what I'm thinking and put myself in other people's shoes and allow us to feel with others. An example of stealing the chickens and running down the street. It's that having that level of empathy. And when you're able to do that, you have to be insane not to be angry right now. So an aspect of sanity and is the empathy and the compassion that will aid and I think adds to the will to act from that level of understanding, being able to show this compassion. And together, I think that we are just going to look at humanity that moves from fear-based, we're going to compete against each other, to this aspect of where I think our conversation is leading to this cooperative piece where we are going to align ourselves with our own values. And the people who are not willing, it's a demarcation between people who are not willing to, who are going to be greedy, who are going to be, who are going to have these elements of toxicity and narcissism. Narcissism is not just a person. It could be a system, can be narcissistic. An ideology. Right. How crazy is it in the middle of vast people who are either having looming financial issues that is going to stop them from contributing to society and feeding their family. And in the midst of in the midst of all of that, we have all of this, the White House is having renovations. There is
opulence,
lack of understanding in that. And so it is a mental illness to be on board with that. I look at people who mimic and just continue the ideology of this lack of compassion and empathy. I see people who do that. That is a mental health problem. Systems can be mentally ill. And I think we all need to not only have empathy and compassion, but we need to speak up. We need to start talking about that and deprogramming by having these conversations. And from a psychological lens, when we are demonstrating this compassion, it's going to dismantle these internalized hierarchies, that has taught us to become disconnected with how we really feel in looking at things and being able to connect with some of that. So trauma research tells us that empathy restores our ability to regulate. It restores our ability to say, you know what, we need to create safety for ourselves and for other people by having conversations like this, raising awareness.
I appreciate your comment and a few comments that have happened, because I think this is the perfect transition into the three, from the 3D, 3D to the 5D consciousness. We specified within the feminine, but you cannot have the feminine without the masculine. So the differences between the two is where all of this crap that's happening is taking us to. It's taking us from competition to the taking care of each other. So I know I had sent I'd sent LEESE this clip, and I know earlier I told you you can show that thing, but I really think I did some more thinking and some reading about it, and I want to kind of read to you guys. people that are not into the woo-woo, it's okay. You don't have to be, right? But just for your information, if you don't know, third dimension consciousness focuses on material reality, ego, competition, survival, and separation, which is me versus you, right? 4D is a transitional awareness, questioning systems, healing trauma, awakening to what's more, right? Which is where kind of we are right now, some of us. And then there's the fifth dimension, which is consciousness is about oneness, unconditional love, harmony, and higher truth. It transcends polarity and power struggles. So that's what as awful and as hardcore as this stuff is that we're going through right now, it feels like we're moving into that awareness because of it. Sometimes nightmares wake us up. If we're having a nice little comfort dream, we stay asleep. It's the nightmare that jolts us up and say, I got to make a change. Or what did that mean? Or how can I do something different? Or I hope that doesn't happen. What can I do? I believe we're in that 4D transition to awakening, which would never have happened if we'd had a nice little president that just did nothing and blamed it on, the polarity in the between the two parties, which is ridiculous because there's all kind of gray in between black and white. There's no way for us to change if it stayed as it was. And that is what moving from this third dimensional feminine masculine thought process, because thoughts are what leads that to the heartfelt, heart-led living that we're transitioning into because we have to. It is what creates our survival. We will not survive as things were. We'll be in war all the time with the War Department. We'll be building ballrooms when people are houseless. We'll be doing those things. And most people, and I do not think that I'm an idealist to say this, most people don't vibe with that kind of way. White people, black people, brown people, nobody wants that. And this darkness that we're in, this nightmare that we're in, is waking all these people up to that change. So do you want to show that thing, LEESE? Because it is so good. You want to share that? Do you mind this transition? Because I just thought it was the perfect transition. Thank you, Dr. Alicia.
I don't have it because I'm on the phone, but basically she broke down exactly what you just said and transitioning into the fifth dimension. So it's like we're at the peak. Actually, it's almost parallel to what we talked about last month with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, building that extra tip of that pyramid. So it's almost like a parallel going into the fifth dimension. But I can put up a quick slide that will introduce that.
Fifth wave feminism is an emerging and controversial movement, with some defining it as a focus on anti-capitalist systematic change, and others as a return to feminine energy and tradition. And I'd say add to that masculine protection and help, right? Unlike previous waves, it emphasizes online organizing, anti-capitalist ideas like prison abolition, and a push for large-scale structural transformation. However, other perspectives see the fifth wave as a movement that re-embraces traditional femininity, heals societal divisions, and strengthens relationships between the genders, challenging the perceived harshness of the fourth wave. So the lady, she was talking about the different stages of feminism over the last few generations. You know, how the first step was to get to the point where we even considered voting, right? And then the other one was the push for that vote. And then the next step was the push towards actually being able to own property and having your own credit in your own bank account. All of these steps. And then it came to the point where we're going to be like men in order to fight men. We went to that part of it, which is more of the fourth dimension, right? But now we're moving into embracing the feminine in all of us, not just women, but people, because we all have to have both. It's the yin and yang balance between us. We can't just be one way. We have to, because if you're one way, that's when it turns toxic. And so we're moving away from, call me a B if you want to, because I gotta be a B if I'm gonna get mine, to, you know what? I don't have to be a B. None of us have to be. Let's get together and let's make this thing happen. And instead of me running things, being the CEO, I want to have a collaborative group that talks together and works together to change things into a way that we're leading from love. We're leading from our hearts. We're leading from a place that brings us together and understanding that we are not all the same. We are all unique. And that unique ability, or not ability, but the unique part of us is what makes us so freaking awesome and so strong. Who wants a purebred when you can have a mutt? Those mutts live forever. With that thought in mind, I'm sure all these brilliant people have their own thoughts about this. This time I want to go with Tamara. Please tell us what you found and what you think about it.
So what I found about fifth dimension feminism is that it invites us to expand beyond the binaries, beyond the boardroom, beyond the ballot box, into a space where healing and spirit, sisterhood, and essential to liberation. That's going to be our freedom. And for Black women, it isn't new. This is something that we've embraced for many, many years. We've always lived in the margins and in the metaphysical, carrying ancestral wisdom that you touched on a little earlier, while we were navigating a system of oppression. So this dimension isn't abstract; it's our lived reality. It's what we live in every day. Mm-hmm. So those were my thoughts when I was putting my thoughts together, because I'm like, okay, so what is this? You have very interesting topics, and I love them because they make me think a little deeper. So I appreciate that. And so that's what I think. I think that we are getting back to our ancestral and innate gifts and talents, and we're sharing that. Like you said, now it's like you're not really going to have a choice. This is how we're going to survive. We're going to embrace each other. We're going to lift each other up, and we're going to become community, because that is going to be how we not only survive, but likely thrive.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll thrive far better than we have been. James, what do you think about this?
Oh, I am challenged in my thinking. Not because I think of something different, but I'm challenged because I'm learning. I'm learning perspectives and situations that I may not have thought about. However, I too am leaning towards that whole quality of feminine understanding. And as a matter of fact, I spoke about it last week to a group, and I was booed off the stage. Of course, I wasn't directly booed off the stage, but people didn't like the fact, and that if I could just drop this little line and then I'll move on. Then I'll let you all move on. I was thinking in regards to Christianity and all that, and I was thinking, who wrote the Bible? Mm-hmm. Men wrote the Bible, and I was thinking, why weren't there any women writing?
There were. They just threw those out.
why wasn't that acknowledged as being something relative to life? And I was thinking really hard, why, why, why is the feminine mystique left out of our growth process relative to community and relative to our lives and family, the structure? And I was thinking, but then I thought, well, if they are left out of the equation, and then how best to actualize what people have generally spoken and left out all these, I would say hundreds of years, but it might be thousands of years.
Yeah.
Might be thousands of years left out, to the extent that this is, and I hate to do that, say that male dominant society. I know about all that. I mean, that is something that we talk about in therapy and all that. I do understand that, but it's more than that. It's more than that. It is the quality of life that have neglected the beautiful quality of femininity in our process of living, but yet we depend upon it in order to live. And so that gets me. So I understand what you're talking about. I'm not very heavy in my thinking, but I do understand it, and I and I am learning, as most of us are learning, in that Jesus wasn't a European. I'm sorry. He had long hair and blue eyes, and it's just it's impractical to even think of it in those terms, but I did for years. I've fallen prey to the thought, the leadership telling me.
Okay.
And so I just took it for face value. It was true. And so as I re-examined my own thinking as a elder adult, and much elder, more elder than most of you all there. I could be your grandfathers probably. But anyway, things, and this is the degree of where I believe things are changing and what we possibly need to do in order to capture it. So I'm glad that the subject matter lends itself to what that whole thought is, in order to build a better community than what we have. Ladies, the time is now.
Thank you. And honestly, I can't.
Your time is now.
I can't say this enough. It's not, from my perspective, about female versus male.
No.
It's about the harmonious nature of the male and female within us all.
Yeah.
What those things mean. It's not about, ladies, it's your turn. It's about men and women together. It's our turn to do this together, balanced in a way. You know, I know this guy who is one of the most balanced people I know, but so mannish. You know, he likes to beat people up, box, and do all these things, and, you know, very strong. But then the most nurturing person I know, constantly concerned about my well-being. That's the feminine in him. This mannish man, that's the feminine in him, that he's calling me to make sure I got home, or that he's, you know, should I drive 2.5 hours when I just got out of hospital to make sure you're okay? That's the feminine in him. It's not the female in him. There's a difference.
Right.
That's what people are confusing, man versus woman. No, it's not man versus woman. It's principles that are balanced.
It's principles and it's energy, CYNDA. You know what I mean? It's feminine energy and masculine energy, and we all have some of each. And it depends on what's going on, which one is going to rise to the occasion. So you're absolutely right.
We need it all.
We need it
I
all at different times.
right.
That's right.
I can be at home and take care of my child that's sick and feed her and make her lunch and then go to the boardroom and lead the meeting.
Absolutely.
We all have daddies now, they've stopped pushing this agenda that men are the breadwinners and that's it. Now they're at home taking their kids out to play and loving on them and giving them blessings, and then they go to the construction job. It's
that's great.
Exactly. It's in both of us. Elisa, what are your thoughts?
Thanks. I think it's really interesting because I think there was such a fear in electing Kamala because she was a woman. So let's just take the race out of it for a second, right? I think there was this overwhelming fear that this woman didn't have the strength to be able to step into a male role and be tough and strong and on top of things, and that she was going to just follow what her president prior to her had done, and she would just take that lead and roll in that direction. So that being said, there was this fear that I think that happened. We're not going to talk about election tampering or any of that stuff. We're just sticking with the femininity and the fifth dimension femininity, like what we're talking about. So with that, here we have a male dominant run country, right? And it doesn't acknowledge any of that. It is the complete opposite of allowing any femininity in it at all. It puts women out in front as sort of a prop, but not a softer side, not a compassionate side, not a warm side. But in turn, very much to what you were saying, CYNDA, it has brought us as the public, as the people who are affected, to have to tap into that. There's a generation, not me, I'm in my 50s, but not my generation, but I get them all confused, right? The Gen Zers and the millennials, but they are much more in tune with the fourth dimension.
Right.
They are much more in tune with trying to get to that fifth dimension. So with that power, that's why you have this huge movement of people who are saying, we're not going to shop in these stores. We're going to shut our money down. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? Because we see that the powers that be are not tapping into the humanity. They're not tapping into the soul of what this country is about, the soul of and you're seeing it worldwide. So the two I think you were right on. We tapped into it in the pandemic, but it was overshadowed by noise. There was a lot of noise going on and fear, and people stepped into it when the Black Lives Matter, and people were like, so the government changed, and now it's changed again, and I think this time people are like, hey, we're not up for this. We fought too hard. We've been through too much. What kind of life? I'm a stay-home dad. I, work from home in my career, but I change diapers and I take care of my children and I take them to school, and my wife has her career, and we're a partnership in this marriage. People are getting married older. They're getting married better, smarter, right? So it's a whole different group of people that are in their 30s and 40s and 20s. It's like something we've never seen before. So it's going to be very interesting how we transition, because it's fascinating. This is a fascinating topic because you can see it happening. You can see people pouring out into the streets. You can see people protesting. You can see people fighting back. You can see people caring for other people. People saying, I got my camera out. That's inhumane what you're doing. Men, women, Spanish, Black, white, Jewish, all of everybody's tapped into this. I feel like we're in a 4D place already. And I think
that's what
as a
we
nation,
are. Yeah.
like
Yeah, we are.
hard. And we're trying to rise to that 5D level. Like there is no question about it. So it's fascinating, the connection that I didn't really see the connection with the
I didn't
two
either.
topics,
I didn't either.
but you brought it together. I didn't see it. I thought last time when we talked about stuff, I saw it right away, but I didn't see it in here. And then when you brought it together, I was like sitting here, I'm just scribbling away. I'm like, wow, she's right. We're there. We're there.
Think about
we
it.
just have to keep going.
Think about that 3D, what that's about, right? And look at all the going back to the shutdown, what's being saved by the ones that want to keep us in that 3D mindset. The war stuff is being saved. The opulence in for the super wealthy is being saved. That makes them better than us, and it makes it separation. The ICE is being saved, arresting and tormenting whole groups of people. That is 3D.
Yep.
What
It's interesting. You said something. So go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, go on, babe. Go on.
I was going to say it kind of like a prison mentality. So like prisons only have a little bit of guards, but a lot of prisons. But the mentality is we can't break out because those guards are going to get us. So like they're like kept in there. Right. So that's it's like a mind control thing. You mentioned it earlier about what did you say about giving us something or giving us a pill or something? You said we're mind controlled by.
We believe that we have no power, but we have all the power.
That's it. We have complete power where I think there's a group, well, not a group, I think a large swath of people recognize that, and there's a small group that feel powerless, that are fearful. That's the group that they want.
Yes.
They want that group. They want that group of people that are afraid. They want that group of people who aren't going to go out, who say, well, what can we do? They've got the courts, they've got Congress, they've got the Senate. We're helpless. And we're like, no, we can do a lot. We can do a lot.
And we are doing a lot. D. Durrell, what do you think, man? What do you think, sir?
Well, it was a lot. I do concur with a lot that is stated as far as this level of how feminism has evolved over time. And what I can say over the last few years, I see a variance in perspectives on feminism. I'm going to be honest with you, frankly. My interaction with feminists in real life has not been good. It's been not a not a positive interaction, and a lot of it was particularly on the previous wave of feminism, which we're kind of talking about. And so, from my perspective, I can only speak of it from the perspective based on the people the women who have been, um, I would say, a great effect on my life. Okay, and I base it from that and the women in my community. Okay, that you know, I grew up in a small town in Louisiana. Um, come from particularly my mom's side of the family. Even though I grew up in a 2-parent home, mom and dad, and I was very close to both sides. But my mom's side of the family, I was the most close to, very matriarchal, and so forth. And so I am accustomed to seeing women in certain positions, making decisions and doing certain things. But also in that, I saw those same women from previous generations. They had very stable relationships as they related to their husbands, and they knew and understood that was. And it's so when you say this, the term feminism, it can filter different perspectives.
Yeah.
People can think they can think negative, they can think, and so that there is a variance in that. But I only look at it from the perspective of the women in my community that look like me and our relationship to each other. in our community. That's what, and so a lot of my career, I was helped in achieving things through my interaction with Black women. And so when I look at feminism, I look at feminism as it relates to how it advances Black women exclusively.
Mhm.
That's how I look at it. I don't look at it from the perspective of all women and all that stuff, even though that's great, that's wonderful. But I look at it as far as the women that I help and that have helped me, our families. I have more of a pro-Black aspect of feminism. That's how I kind of look at it. So I'm for the advancement of our women in all aspects of life, um, as far as us working together. And I did like how someone coined that, how, you know, as far as having aspects of both and a balance of that. Someone spoke of that earlier. I think that is definitely a necessity as it relates to Black men. Having, not being so kind of stoic and kind of, you know, I would say one-sided as it relates to our mindset and perspective. There needs to be some level of adjustment in that. And so, but from what I'm hearing, as far as a fifth wave, it sounds very promising. And if there are more uh, feminists who are taking that perspective, I think that then things are going in a direction that's very positive. But you know that's kind of my perspective on it. If it's going in that direction, then I think that
Yeah,
it's
and I
definitely headed
agree.
yeah,
The fourth wave was to me the feminist groups hijacking the masculine way of doing things,
right, right,
which
Mhm.
was the opposite of the
Yeah,
direction that we need to move.
right,
yeah.
I'm gonna leave my kids and never be home. I'm gonna go work 24 hours a day. I don't need a man, and blah 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 and all of that. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right,
that, but it, to me, what I've found in my own personal journey, whenever I find something new, I go all the way to the like I was learning how to use my voice. I was finding my voice. I would always never say anything. I was very quiet. And so when I started finding my voice, I went all the way to the opposite side, and I was cussing my daddy out and stuff,
oh
right?
wow.
And then it was like all the way. But then I found my way back to balance. It was like, and I think that's what happened with feminism. We just flew all the way to the other side towards the
Didn't get
issue we
too
said we
far.
had a problem with, but we're finding our way back to the middle now. Or it's like a baby Christian, when they find Jesus, man, they go from the club to telling you scriptures, every word that comes out of their mouth, and they drive you crazy, right? They just, at least they drive me crazy.
Yep.
But then eventually they find their way back to the middle, and they might connect to those scriptures or whatever, but now they're not trying to beat you over the head with it. I feel like that's what feminism went through when we're talking about women specifically. And this fifth wave is bringing us back to balance,
Back.
where we're in touch with the matriarchy, we're in touch with the
Yeah.
healing, we're in
Mhm.
touch with the nurture,
Agree.
and we're in touch with the strength and the whatever. Dr. Alicia, we haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I got quite a bit to say because I'm sitting here like jumping in my chair. I wanna comment on the Slatter show, because the Slatter show is bringing up something I think is important. He says, I think that they have a place, but I will say that a man cannot give or use a womb to bring life. We help, but that's saying a lot to me. So the thing is that you're getting in touch with your feminine self that all of us have. Now, all it is creating things.
Yeah.
So it may not be a baby, but you can incubate an idea that can help you create something marvelous. So the issue of creativity is when you need to step into your feminine side to be able to understand this creativity. So that would be my comment there. The thing with feminism, first of all, I think like there's different types of feminism. I was just teaching this in my graduate. I'm also a college professor, and I was teaching feminism. We were talking about it just on Friday, and I'm teaching a class on cross-cultural practice, and we're talking about, of course, the feminist movement and LGBT rights and all of that. And I think what's so important, there's different types of feminism, and I think what most people don't even, some people who are just like real aggressive toward feminism, and I dive into like the red pill community and just this hatred toward women in general. And I'm thinking, yeah, you have a legitimate gripe toward this pendulum swing to the other side, but that's commercialized feminism. And even like when I talk to my husband, I'll say, hey, do you believe that men and women should be paid equally for the type of work that they do? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, you are a feminist. Do you believe that women should get maternity leave, paid maternity leave? Are you in favor of that? Yes. Well, congratulations. You are a feminist. And so there's different types of feminism. And maybe we need to create another word for it because it's been so commercialized, misunderstood in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And, the issue with, feminism, yes, a lot of Black people have written about, scholars have legitimate concerns about the feminist movement. I think Crenshaw, I read up on her. I used to do a lot of talks on that, God, many years ago. But she has like a legitimate critique of feminism. It's centering white women, middle class problems. And, there's an advocate advocating for inclusion of diverse voices within these feminist movements. But I think what's so important long time ago, when I was really talking about this coming to my mind as we have this conversation, but each feminist movement came on the tails of oppression of Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, think about the first wave of feminism happened because of the abolition movement.
Mm-hmm.
We want to abolish slavery, Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and all those individual people were central to the abolition of slavery. But then you got these white women just going to say, oh, no, hold on. We're not going to have Black men have these issues. No, we're going to try to reconcile. And there's a parallel between these racial and gender oppression. No, we're going to do that. So the feminist movement really gained and really benefited, especially the Seneca Falls Convention. We can get into all of that, but that's the thing. And the second wave of feminist movement came from the tails of the civil rights movement. And so Fannie Lou Hamer, I can't remember some of the other people's names. It's been a while since I looked at some of that, but it's just like, these models, this civil rights activism and sit-ins and marches, a lot of Black women felt a little kind of like, okay, these men are telling us we need to sit down and we can't say our voice, but then these white women aren't taking into account some of these racial issues. Like, hello, I'm concerned about the lynching that's happening in the South. What are we saying about that? And that wasn't happening. So, I mean, the whole issue of the feminine, that's a show among even of itself. But if we were to get into like, what is this looking like now? I think that we are the 5D feminism, from what I'm hearing from CYNDA, is that we're transcending race on some level. It's a transcending of basic human rights. And that's what we're being pushed to be able to consider, how we can move into this, embody this 5D, we have a choice to make, seeing the divinity in everything. I see the divine in everything. And it's this consciousness. And it's like, it's not saying we all just need to sing Kumbaya and just sit back and be passive. No, this is saying, oh no, we need to say, we're drawing the line here. I'm be empathetic to you, but I'm not going to let you step all over me too. So there is going to be this, instead of passivity and this blind positivity, we're going to react in a way, but respond in a way that signifies the wholeness and not conflict. You know, we're going to have compassion. We're going to lead with compassion instead of control, but we're going to also truth to power is going to happen. And so that's what I'm all here for it. And yeah, that's how I would respond.
So can I hear from LEESE? Because you've been up there quiet and I know you want to say something. What do you want to say? LEESE.
This subject actually was prefaced on some of the things that are happening here in the DMV, but it's happening all over. And it's the fact where a lot of women of color, young women of color, older women of color are being abducted, perhaps trafficked, and we're not getting national attention. So that's what this is really prefaced on. And then when I was sent that TikTok, it ties in all together. Why, for some of us, or why aren't we in some optics, why aren't we important? Why aren't our statuses of missing important enough through the optics of some people?
Mm-hmm. Are you
Because
asking?
it continues to happen at a rate. Yes, it's a question, but a comment as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what D. Durrell said. Okay, I'm gonna say it. Black women are the structure of women. Okay, white women aren't. It was us first, right? I say us lightly, considering my mother was white, but it started with African women. That's where birth began. That's where it all began. So
Warriors.
yes, that's where it all began. And we weren't born. You didn't see no man pushing no child out of his butt, right? It started with Black women, and I think the reason why, at least, you don't see these things is because the beginnings are being suppressed.
That part.
Black women are being suppressed and put into slavery and sex trafficking to keep us from this awakening. Keep us in fear, keep us from, because when we wake up, everybody wakes up.
Say it again, CYNDA. Yes.
When we wake up, everybody wakes up. Black, white, yellow, whatever. Everybody wakes up. So keep us in fear, steal us, sell us. But the thing is, you cannot, once you wake up from that nightmare, you can't go back to sleep. So they can try to lull us back to sleep by messing with the individuals and masses of us, and small masses of us. But it's too late. It's too late. We're an awakening giant.
Right.
Yeah, we are.
Right now, in this last, since our president came into power, or whatever that is, all of a sudden, you remember, Black ladies on here know, we were like, we ain't doing nothing. We're going to rest right now, right? We're going to let y'all handle that. Isn't that like grandma? That's like grandma. Okay, you go do this, child, and you do that, and I'm going to sit here and let y'all take care of me right now. That's because we are waking up to the power that we have. You can't put that giant to sleep. You can't put that by. They're trying their best. It's the last pathetic breaths of power. That's how they're trying to do it. Make us afraid, make us by stealing us and doing all these kind of things. But the body is bigger than those, say, horrible people, the sacrificed. But if you believe in spirit, they're only sacrificing this long, because all that's doing is the opposite of what they're hoping it'll do, waking us up more. that is
Isn't
just.
that,
Mhm.
isn't that what they're all afraid of in the first place? Isn't that what this is all about? They're realizing that we know our power at this point. They're realizing that we're also not staying in that minority number. They're becoming the minority, and that is what all this fear is about, is that if they become the minority, then they will lose the power that they think they have. And so what you said was profound, and I'm like, absolutely. They're just afraid that we now know that we are the blueprint. And I know that that's a saying, but that is actually a real truth. The
No, it's
Black woman is the creator of humanity, period. All humanity.
it's the beginning of
So
it.
I'm glad yes, I appreciate that. That's the beginning of it. I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, because honestly, you once you know, you can't go back.
Go back.
And they can try to bring us back. They could try to take us backwards, but it's too late. It's too late, and they know
Yep.
that. It's like a ant that's on its back fighting to right itself. That's all that's going on now. They're on their backs because they know their power everything has shifted, because enough people have awakened. Enough people, not everybody has, that it's just we cannot go backwards anymore. And that's why I personally am not afraid of any of this BS. I think
Me either. And I was asking myself, why aren't you afraid? It's like, one, I know where I come from. I know where my help comes from. So I depend on God. So that's why I'm not afraid. And so when I speak to those that are in my sphere, I just remind them where their help comes from, and that nothing's happening without his permission. Nothing's happening without his permission. It is going to be what it's going to be. So I choose not to sit and worry. I choose not to sit in a negative space, because it's going to be what it's going to be. That is beyond me. That is in God's to-do box. So I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do as a human being, and keep praising, keep being a good person, keep being a community activist, keep talking to my young people. That's my job to do. And I'm going to leave God to do his job, because something crazy is happening, and we just got to wait and watch it unfold and stay prayed up.
Good.
as they say, pop the popcorn and watch the show.
Watch the show.
Right.
James, do you have any thoughts based on what you've heard? Because I know you're new to these concepts, although I think you've been living. You guys, I'm gonna embarrass you, but I don't think so. So my uncle was a different kind of leader in our family, because I feel like the men in our family leaned in towards a little bit of the masculine, like hardcore. And King's got some of that. He likes to be served his food and stuff like that. But for the most part, he was the most balanced of all the men of his generation. He was the one that was nurturing. He was the only one that liked the girls. Nobody else liked the girls. They just liked the boys, which was the majority in our family. But King fed into and loved on me and my sisters. This is a show I want canceled. What are you talking about, James? What does that mean? Yeah, you always had that balance. That's why, I really wanted you on this show, because I knew no matter what, you'd always be balanced, But based on these concepts that you're hearing today, what do you think about it, coming from your unique perspective on this panel of being our elder?
Well, thank you for saying that, because it's true. I have learned more than what I imagined, as it relates to this group, and as it relates to ladies who are speaking their minds and understanding the transition of the world as we move into a new perspective, all of us. One of the things that I've always been concerned about is definitions to define. As an example, to define a Black woman. we black women, and I'm just not picking you out because you're something special, any more special than anybody else. But I'm saying that black women have been defined as being this, that, and the other. And people, the world, our community, life have up have gone along with that whole conceptual idea in regards to the defining of women. And the women find themselves, in my opinion, not all the time, but often, to fall into that definition and try to raise that definition in that they want to be what people define them to be. And it's not true. I've never believed it. I've never believed it even as a child. And that was during prehistoric times back in the day. I never believed it. I believe that we all live on one common denomination, and that is humanity. And that's what I'm interested in. And that's what I see today as being relative to where we're going to go from this point on. And I'm not speaking of white women, black women, Asian women, all that. I'm speaking of women, period. And that you have that element of divinity that have escaped our history, And so we define it as being relative to eating, feeding, and taking care of kids, sure. And I agree with that to a certain degree. But I also agree that you have a voice now because of the transition of the world more than you have ever had it before. And as it relates to community, when I say community, I'm not speaking of our personal community. I'm talking about the world community. You have a lot to say, and we need you. We need you to step up and to say it and not to be ashamed and not to fall prey to definition, fall prey to what others think about you, and to redefine what we believe, what they believe, or the world believe is beauty and substance and relevance. You have it, and I'm waiting for it because I want to join you, not as a feminist, but as a man joining a woman.
Thank you. Thank
Et
you.
tu fine.
And on that note, I mean, I had so much more I wanted to talk about. We never have enough time, but we have plenty of time because we say what we're supposed to say. We got to wrap it up because our producer has some stuff she got to take care of because she is a strong Black woman. So I would love to say thank you, first of all, from me to you. Thank you all for joining. I love having these conversations. You're all brilliant people, and I feel fed by your presence. So thank you. Let me start with Dr. Alicia. How can people support you and find you if they, which I know they will?
Yes, well, thank you for having me on today, everybody. Nice meeting some of you guys. Some of you guys I recognize. The best way to get a hold of me is to follow me on Instagram, Coaching with Dr. Alicia, and of course my website, coachingwithdralicia.com. But follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Coaching with Dr. Alicia. And goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Alisa.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Alisa_words of wisdom. Great.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And she got some wise words. Tamara.
Hi, Tamara. I am Tamara _the Mary Kay lady on Instagram. Thank you.